Hi, this is a quick review of a Google Classroom that I did with my fifth grade art students. It is a graffiti unit that was kind of a two-part unit. The first part was done in the art classroom, and then the second part was done in their language arts class. The first thing that my art students did on the first day, and my students are one-to-one, they brought their Chromebooks in and they logged into my classroom, and the first thing that they would do is do a pre-assessment form, which is right down here. So they would click on this, and then here's kind of a quick pre-assessment that they would do. So just some general information, name, email, which homeroom they're in, because I have 3 separate homerooms that I teach for 5th grade. And then they would answer these 5 basic questions just so I could get some background information on what they thought of graffiti, whether it's art or vandalism, how people would create graffiti. Here's evidence that my students actually did do this. Here we can see on the side over here are the homeroom teacher's name, and then I can review each of my students' comments and what they felt. This way I can get a pretty good sense of what they felt like prior to going through the lesson, and then there's also a form that they'll be filling out that I'll show you in a second after they watch my lessons. So if I go back here to my classroom, so after they filled out that pre-assessment form, the next thing that they did is they then came here and they watched.
Hi everyone.
Let me
For
pause
this
that for you.
module, we are
And what that is a screencastify that I did of a lesson, kind of introducing them to what graffiti is. They got to see some images of different graffiti on the trains in the 1980s. I also was able to show them kind of what a train would look like brand new without any graffiti, and then also we could then see what the insides of the trains looked like once people started doing graffiti on the insides of the trains as well. So the students would kind of watch through this informational video that I did to them, showing them some different elements of graffiti in New York City. And then once they completed that, then the next step that we would do is they would scroll down and they would create another form. So here again, after they watch that, and the nice thing about this is they could go back to the video if they didn't know some of the answers, and they could look. And what's kind of cool about this is I can see quickly what students felt, whether it's art or vandalism, as I scroll down. So you can see most of the students kind of felt that it was art, but definitely there was some students that kind of looked at and said, that's probably vandalism. And then I could click on what their responses are, and I could read that and judge what they took from the lesson there. So now if I go back to my classroom, once they've completed those 2, there was another video that they watched.
graffiti has been around
That's
in
gives them a little bit of
and
more background information on graffiti. And then after they completed that, they would go on to another short video that I used that was about creating their own graffiti in a special website, which was pretty cool.
Hello everybody. Today we're going to take a look at some graffiti lettering basics.
So what I do in this video is I basically kind of introduce the art concept to them with the vocabulary. And if we look through this video, you can kind of see some of the different changes that video, or I'm sorry, the graffiti design will go through as they start adding different things. And I talk them through the different elements that graffiti has in it. And they start to learn, okay, this is what stripes are, these are what highlights are, this was a key line, and the different elements in there. Once they complete this video, then we'll actually get an opportunity to create their own graffiti design. So they would then go back to my Google Classroom, and they'd come up here and they would click this link here, which takes them to a site called Graffiti Creator. And the Graffiti Creator, what's nice about that is the kids can load these different fonts that you can see here, and when you click on one of these, it loads. And then what they would have to do is this one. All right, this one doesn't seem to be working, so let me try a different one. There we go. I just got to click on here, allow, and then it pops up. And then what the students do once it comes in here is they would type their name in, and then they'd hit create, and then their name would pop up. And the cool thing about this is they learned about these different things over here with a fill, what a yoke was, limbs and stripes, and then they could kind of click on that, and then they can add color to them. And these little tabs over here would mix or blend the colors, which is pretty cool, and the kids really enjoyed that. And then each one of these adds a different element, and then they can kind of go through these, and I'll just do it real quick, and play around with the colors, and then they could actually see the terminology kind of take shape in their actual design. They would create these designs, and then they would go ahead and save them, and they would put them into my Padlet. So let me close out of here. Now I can't actually show you my Padlet page because the students' full names are in the Padlet, but what I did do is create a screenshot, which is here, of my Padlet, where I've blocked out all the student names. But here you can see actual student work where they've created their design in the Graffiti Creator website. They've saved it, they've uploaded it, and then you can see here that the goal of this was to have students, yes, create graffiti, but then also to learn a little bit about how do we comment and critique others' work and have other people critique our work without taking it personal, that it's more about talking about the artwork and things that they could do to improve. And this was a hard concept for them, so if you look through here, you can see some of the students would make comments about, oh, awesome, great job. But here's a nice comment. Nice job. Maybe you could add more colors than just yellow, red, and black. So there's a constructive criticism. So as the students went through, and they didn't have to respond to everyone's because there was a lot of student work, but they had to go through and make a positive comment, meaning find a design that they really liked, tell students kind of why they liked it, and then also find one that they wanted to comment on and make comments on why or how they felt that they could fix it. So most of the students did a pretty good job, that they did do a couple of those, and then also they would go find their friends and say, hey, awesome job or great job or whatever. So overall, as I read through the student comments, I think they did a really, really good job. I could see how the students kind of grew from looking at the Padlet page, because I could go through and find their specific responses, find how many responses they did, and see kind of how they did that. And then once they finished this in the art room, then they transitioned over to language art lesson. So I hope you enjoyed seeing my Google Classroom and seeing how my students used it, and you'll now see how they did in language arts.